I am supposed to be getting home from Puerto Rico tonight, and I think it's pretty obvious that I am not currently there. So what happened? A couple of weeks ago, Jim woke up with a fever and a sore throat, so I ran over to the store to get him a COVID test, and sure enough, this was 3 days before we were set to leave, so needless to say, we were in a little bit of a lurch. Because by some miracle I did not contract COVID, I had to very quickly rearrange our plans so that we wouldn't lose out on the airline tickets and hotel accommodations that we had already booked. And now that we're on the other side of it, I'd like to share with you what you can do if you find yourself in a similar situation. Okay, let's get into it. Step 1, try not to panic. So the order in which you do these steps does not matter. All that matters is that you do your best to keep a clear head and get through it. I say that fully understanding that there's something about even just the thought of having to change your travel that can be full-on panic-inducing, and that's without the added stress of a potentially life-changing event, but I am here to assure you that it's going to be okay. Honestly, and zero judgment here, maybe consider having a breakdown before you start tackling any next steps. I sure did. And in the interest of adding a little more perspective, I just want to point out that if you're having to cancel or change travel plans that you've been making for heaven only knows how long, your headspace is going to be all over the place. So yeah, a good cry or freak out is your body needing to react to your situation. In other words, listen to your body. In this case, Jim was sick, but he had also just been around my 92-year-old grandmother, so I was definitely in a doomsday frame of mind. Physically letting out frustration, or frankly any kind of energy, good or bad, is the best possible thing you can do before taking decisive action. You can even shut down for a moment if you need to. Taking a moment for yourself will help clear your head so that you can see your next steps more clearly and have more productive conversations with the people you're about to talk to. Like Jim so lovingly and regularly reminds me, an empty well cannot nourish a village. Or as I like to think about it in travel terms, make sure to put on your oxygen mask before helping others. Step 2, gather up your proof. Whatever the circumstances, any proof you can provide of your situation will absolutely help your case. More often than not, you're going to find you don't need it, but on the off chance you do need it, at least you'll have it. Better to have it and not need it than need it and not have it.
Kind of like a condom, I guess.
Always funny. I also found this step worked wonders for my head clearing because I was forced to focus on something other than my travel for a minute. For our case, I got a picture of Jim's positive home COVID test thingy and bolstered it with some pictures of the receipts so that they could see when I actually bought them. Depending on your situation, you may want a doctor's note or an email describing your circumstances or a picture of that bird that flew in through your skylight, literally anything that proves your claim. Just please, please, please remember to redact any sensitive information before sharing. Step 3, assess your new dates and itinerary. A lot of things may be on your plate to adjust, and hopefully you have a list of them, but if you don't, I highly recommend go make a list of everything so you have it clear as day in front of you. Easy peasy. Then get with yourself or the people you're traveling with and figure out your new dates and activities. When can you make it happen next? And for how long? Can you even still do all the stuff that you had planned before? In our case, we only had to postpone by a couple of months, but we had to cut our trip down by a week by removing our visit to Vieques. So there's that. I'm gonna call that a good take. Step 4, track your support calls. Regardless of if your first call is to an airline or a cruise line or a train line, there are 3 things I want you to do that are going to make your life a lot easier. Number 1, track all your phone calls. Note the name and number of the office you called, when you called them, who you spoke to, and what they said. Number 2, request everything in writing and stay on the phone until you see it in your inbox. If they promised that you'll receive something in a day or 2, have them send you an email now confirming what they just said. And if you're using a support chat system, take screen caps of all the conversations you're having and request to have them send you an email of the conversation as well if that option is available. And third, I can count. 1, 2, 3. Request a customer support ticket or case number so that you can reference your previous conversations in your future calls. Step 5, rearrange your flights. The caveat to everything I'm about to say is it only applies if you did not purchase a refundable ticket. I almost never do because I'm cheap, so you'll get zero judgment from me if you find you need this step. I know I said we only had to postpone by a couple of months, but I have heard of some people who have to wait until the following year until they can travel again. And since most airlines can't book more than 6 months out, you are likely going to be requesting a refund or likelier in the case of a non-refundable ticket, a flight credit. Just know that each airline's process for handling these types of requests is different, and from what I've found, none of the airlines here in the States is legally obligated to refund you your cash back if you can't fly due to circumstances outside their control. If you are issued a flight credit or a voucher, most airlines give you a full calendar year to use it before it expires, and they will not remind you. So set a notification or 4 on your calendar to remind yourself to book your travel before it expires, or you will be out that money. And there is nothing they will do about it. Trust me. It is good to note, however, that you can book your travel dates for a date after the expiration of your travel credit. The tricky thing is, if for any reason you have to reschedule your travel, you will have to reschedule it right then and there. You can't, for example, cancel your trip and then come back and rebook it once you have your new dates, because technically your travel credit expired and they can't renew it for you. And while I could easily spend an hour doing a TED Talk on why I find this policy to be completely arbitrary and unfair, at least I can say that the Delta customer service reps I talked to were really nice about it. And something else to keep in mind: if the price of your flight changes, you will have to either pay or be reimbursed the difference. In the case of our travel, our new dates were actually $50 cheaper than our previous dates, so that was reissued to me as a new flight credit, which I now have another calendar year to use. Step 6. Rearrange your accommodations. Gird your loins, folks, because we're about to get a master's class in how to handle a customer service request that screws over both the customer and the client. So while I don't recommend booking flights through third-party sites, we do usually book our accommodations through hotels.com because we can see the reviews more easily and get a good assessment of the properties. And until I build my app, it is a really convenient way to store all of my reservations. One thing we try to look for is hotels with cancellation policies as close to our check-in date as possible. But it's not foolproof, and we did have one hotel where we had already missed the cancellation window by the time all this went down. For the most part, I rarely have to deal with hotels.com customer service, and for this issue, the only option I was given was their chat system. My agent reassured me that they would advocate on my behalf and get something back to me within 72 hours. It's not a great wait, but if it meant having time to deal with other stuff, then fine. A little over a day later, I got an email from hotels.com customer service stating, "We've contacted..." Unfortunately, after multiple tries, emphasis mine, we weren't able to obtain an approval from the property manager to waive the change fee. We always try to contact suppliers and advocate for our travelers. Properties often have strict policies around bookings, and there's nothing more we can do in this case. Interesting. I replied to them pleading my case a little bit further and got basically the same reply a second time, so I decided to take matters into my own hands. Juan was the person at the hotel who took my call, and first off, he spoke perfect English. I explained my situation and told him we still wanted to stay there in a couple of months. I will say that it did seem to be helpful that we had our new dates ready and wanted to stay the same number of nights as before, so take note. Juan was just so incredibly kind and understanding, and what's more, he didn't even hesitate to change our reservation. Needless to say, I let Hotels.com have it in my email response, and that was a little over a week ago. I have not heard back. We also had one hotel we'd booked with directly that had a 24-hour cancellation policy, so of course my ADHD brain let it ride out until the day we were supposed to be checking in, at which point, in a fit of panic, I had to call the property and apologize profusely and see if there was literally anything they could do to help me. So dumb. I love my brain. In this instance, and very understandably, the hotel did request proof of Jim's illness, which thankfully we had, in the form of the aforementioned pictures of his positive test and my receipts. Once again, they were extremely accommodating and they moved our reservation no problem. So here's my advice to you in this situation. Travel insurance is helpful, but it's not foolproof. Confirm which circumstances they will cover and which ones they won't. Yes, unfortunately that means you have to read the fine print. I am sorry. If you're not canceling your accommodations altogether, have your new itinerary planned out and ready when you call. Have whatever proof of your situation you can available and be willing to offer it before anyone asks. Be kind. These are often small businesses and they do have bottom lines, so don't be surprised if they have to say no and you wind up having to forfeit some money. That said, don't be afraid to negotiate. For example, ask if they can take part of the reservation instead of all of it. Or just straight up say, is there a way we can negotiate this? I really can't afford to lose $300 right now. And don't be afraid to mention that them working with you will go a long way in your deciding to stay with them in the future. If you have a good experience, leave a good review somewhere and let others know too. If you have a bad experience, write them or your third-party booking agent an email detailing what happened from your side. This way you have it in writing for the future, and you might even get a response with an apology and maybe even your money back. Step 7. rearrange the rest of your itinerary. You doing a donkey-guided condor viewing off the rim of the Grand Canyon, or an 18-course meal at a poodle-themed Michelin star restaurant? Whatever the activity you have planned, it's basically rinse and repeat from here, folks. If possible, inform yourself of their cancellation policy ahead of time. If you plan to reschedule, have your dates ready. Get in touch with them as quickly as possible. Calmly explain your situation. I promise you'll get better at it with each call. Ask what your options are and negotiate. And please be kind. It'll get you a long way, I promise. So while I would only wish this situation on my worst enemy, you know what you did, Dawn. If it happens to you, I promise it doesn't have to be a challenge that breaks you. I have spent a number of years on the receiving end of customer service calls, and I'm a lifelong traveler, so you know I'm not here to steer you wrong. That said, if you feel I missed something, or you have some additional questions, or a specific circumstance that you want some more information on, get into the comments and let me know. I am here for you. Go team. She was never a cheerleader. Hopefully, I have given you some good food for thought so that you can seamlessly replan your travel. So go get 'em, Tiger, so that you can go have an adventure. Nice. You know what? I'm just gonna go with the previous take. Okay. Sticky, glossy, candy. Sponsor me, Rihanna. I actually did my makeup off of a picture of hers. Little inspo, cause she's pretty. All right, good. I know we said, I said, but before I do me a solid and hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. Taking a moment for yourself will help clear your head. Kind of like a condom that way. Thank you, you're a peach, I love you.